WrestleMania II. Yes, just 1 year after the first WrestleMania in 1986. It was so successful that they were able to do it all over again. Now, this WrestleMania was unlike any other. It's in fact the only WrestleMania to have taken place in 3 different cities. The first hour was in New York, the second hour was in Chicago, and the last hour was in Los Angeles. Now, I don't know exactly why they did it this way, but they did. Vince McMahon opens the show. You could tell he's excited and he can't wait to get the show started. He brings out Ray Charles to sing the national anthem. Good way to start. First match of the night, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff versus a magnificent Don Morocco, who's with Mr. Fuji. Now, it's interesting that Mr. Wonderful was in the main event at the first WrestleMania, but next year, 1 year later, he's in the first match. Kind of a big drop. He's also a face this time around. He was being cheered, at least. This match was a little disappointing because it was quick and it ended in a double countout. The fans were even chanting bullshit, which is funny, especially for 1986. Now, Intercontinental Champion, Macho Man Randy Savage, with Miss Elizabeth versus George the Animal Steele. The story going into this match was that George the Animal Steele was in love with Miss Elizabeth. Who could blame him? But of course Macho Man wanted to keep him away from her, which I don't know if Macho Man really had anything to worry about as far as losing her. It should have been more about the Intercontinental title. The match itself, it wasn't the greatest. George the Animal Steele wasn't like the best technical wrestler. He didn't do a whole lot of moves. He did a lot of biting and a lot of grabbing, and he was a powerhouse type of guy. It was really Macho Man selling the moves, and that's what made this match work. The hair on George the Animal Steele, like, wow, how much hair can one person have all over his body? And how many times did he like go up to the turnbuckles and just like rip them open and like eat the fuzz or the stuffing that was in there? How weird. What type of character is that? Macho Man, of course, gets the win using the ropes. He cheated, but he kept the title. The commentators, I should mention, for the first hour was Vince McMahon himself and Susan St. James, who I think they said was a TV actress. Interesting that they'd have like a wrestling person and a celebrity do commentary. They don't really do that anymore. George Wells, who I'm not familiar with this guy at all, but he fought Jake the Snake Roberts. And George Wells, up until this point, the show had kind of just, it was going along, but George Wells was like doing some high-flying moves, and he's a bigger guy, so I wasn't expecting that. It was a fast-paced match. He had the better of Jake the Snake from the majority of the match until Jake the Snake all of a sudden DDT, wham! And he pinned him, takes the Snake out, which is some of the best stuff that Jake the Snake was able to do. Put the Snake on top of someone, creepy as hell. Then Joan Rivers comes out. Interesting to see how she looked in 1986 compared to all the plastic surgery she got now. She comes out to introduce the celebrity guest judges for the upcoming boxing match. It's Roddy Piper versus Mr. T. This boxing match, it wasn't terrible, and I understand why they did it, riding off of the big media hype that Mr. T gave them the year before in the main event. Obviously, if he wanted to come back, then why not put him with someone like Roddy Piper, someone that can carry him, someone that can make this work? I guess I just much would have rather have seen Roddy Piper get a title shot, be in the main event against Hulk Hogan. I think he deserved it more. The boxing match went 4 rounds. It was mostly just, you know, punches, nothing real. It wasn't even like that great of a boxing match. The wrestling fans didn't really get into it until Piper went crazy and just shoved the referee and body slammed Mr. T. And so Mr. T got the win by DQ. Now on to Chicago. We have a WWF Women's Championship match. The Fabulous Moolah versus Velvet McIntyre. Drew McIntyre's mother. Not really. But this was one of the quickest matches ever. Moolah easily retained the title. Then Nikolai Volkov, who was with Classy Freddie Blassie, he fought Corporal Krushner. I'd never heard of this Corporal guy, but the fans were into him because he was USA, and everybody hates when Nikolai Volkov sings his national anthem. Oh well. And the Corporal Krushner guy won. Who would have thunk it? The commentators for the second hour were Gorilla Monsoon, Mean Gene Okerlund, and Kathy Lee Crosby, another celebrity. And anytime you have Gorilla Monsoon on commentary, he's one of the best commentators ever, so it was good. Then we had a battle royal where like half of them were football players and then the other half were wrestlers. Wrestlers like Big John Studd, the Hart Foundation, their very first WrestleMania. Bruno Sammartino just showed up. I'm like, really? We're going to have him in this? Okay. Will the Refrigerator Perry, who might have been the most cheered guy in this match, and Andre the Giant, who of course Andre got the win. He's won the most Battle Royals, more than anyone in history. I like that it came down between Andre and the Hart Foundation, and he just threw them out easily. Tag Team Championship match, Greg Valentine and Brutus Beefcake versus the British Bulldogs. The British Bulldogs had Lou Albano and Ozzy Osbourne out there with them. That was pretty cool to see Ozzy Osbourne out there. This match was really good. This is one of the better matches of the night. The British Bulldogs are some of my favorite tag teams of all time just because of the fast pace that they did, the high offensive moves. There was a lot of near falls and a lot of moves that you really thought that was it, but no, they kept kicking out. And the finish was interesting because British Bulldog grabbed Valentine, threw his head into his own partner, the Dynamite Kid, and Dynamite Kid was knocked out after Bulldog got the win, and he was bleeding because it was weird. Like outside the ring, they had concrete. They didn't even have mats out there. Jeez, the 80s, yeah, pretty intense. That brings us to the final hour, Los Angeles. The commentators this time, Jesse Ventura, awesome, Lord Alfred Hayes, may he rest in peace, and Elvira. I'm not making a joke. Elvira was out there. So, Hercules Hernandez versus Ricky Steamboat. The match itself was actually pretty good. Ricky Steamboat, high-risk maneuvers, drop kick and arm drags all over the place. Steamboat got the win. Good for him. Adrian Adonis with Jimmy Hart versus Uncle Elmer. Now, Adrian Adonis, his character, wow. Talk about the craziest gimmick I've ever seen. He's very flamboyant. I'll leave it at that. But he got the win easily, which is surprising because the other guy was this hillbilly, looked like he might have been related to Hillbilly Jim, and he just got beat up by this makeup-wearing guy. Hey, to each his own. Apparently the guy is pretty tough in the ring. The Funk Brothers, Terry Funk and Haas Funk, with Jimmy Hart once again. How many people did Jimmy Hart manage back then? They fought the Junkyard Dog and Tito Santana. Junkyard Dog, I think, might have been one of the most cheered guys of the night next to Hulk Hogan. But this was a good match as well. Terry Funk, talk about out there people and characters. He was just all over the place, running all over the ring, and I couldn't tell if he was purposely being this clumsy, which I think he was, but he kept like falling over the place, going over the top rope. It looked like he just was so energized. And he was going after the ring announcer, throwing his jacket at him. Of course, thanks to Jimmy Hart's megaphone, they hit Junkyard Dog, and they got the win. Junkyard Dog loses another WrestleMania. That hurts. On to the main event. Steel cage match for the WWF Championship. Hulk Hogan versus King Kong Bundy with Bobby Heenan. Now, the match was a lot quicker than I was expecting because the build-up into this was King Kong had attacked Hulk Hogan's back, and they showed him training before the match, and his doctor was saying that he might have a herniated disc, so he shouldn't have taken the match, and he could be really hurt, and he was taped up, so you thought it was going to be a lot more, at least, hard for Hogan. But Hogan, of course, being the immortal one that he is, he made King Kong Bundy bleed pretty early on in the match, and he got the win. He not only body slammed him, he power slammed King Kong Bundy. leg drop, went over the cage, gets the win like I said, beats up even Bobby the Brain, throws him into the cage a few times. So WrestleMania 2, I'm going to say that it was an hour longer than WrestleMania 1. So WrestleMania 1 felt more tight, faster pace, and it got to the main event quicker. This one did, I don't want to say dragged on a little bit. There was some boring parts, but there was at least 3 or 4 really good matches in there. And every time you see Hogan in the main event, of course, he does deliver. Say what you want to say about the guy, but he does. There was a reason why he was a champion for as long as he was. So WrestleMania 2 overall was pretty decent. Anyways, guys, let me know in the comments below if you've seen WrestleMania 2 and what you thought of it. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Later!